What's up, everybody? What's up, YouTube? It's Jelly. I am back on another motovlog adventure. Today I'm going to do a trip. I'm going about 2 hours north of here to Princeton, New Jersey, which is an area that I grew up in. And I'm going to go to the Princeton Battlefield and show you Einstein's house, where he used to live and work, and Princeton University, and then the governor's mansion. So I'm going to be riding around all day. I hope the weather holds up. It's supposed to be actually a little bit clearer up where we're going. So I have a huge interest in the Revolutionary War time period. I don't know where that comes from. I just have always been fascinated with the Revolutionary War and how battles used to be fought back then. And I don't know, there's a couple different time periods that I'm really fascinated with. One is Roman times, huge Roman, like old Roman times, like history. I'm fascinated with the Colosseum and during those times. Revolutionary War time, and strangely enough, the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the 1930s, 40s, 50s. Like, I always had a interest in that time period. Even with the music as a kid, I used to only want to listen to that music. I didn't want to listen to the music of the day. But again, Revolutionary War, there's a lot of history in New Jersey with the Revolutionary War and George Washington, and the Battle of Princeton was one of the major battles of the Revolutionary War here, and it was fought on that field. So we're going to go there. They have the Thomas Clark House, which is also there, and that is where the hospital, they had the field hospital was there, where they brought all the wounded soldiers. And Princeton's in Mercer County, and Mercer County is named after Hugh Mercer, who was an officer in the Revolutionary War, friends with George Washington, and he was a great leader, and he was actually wounded and fell on that field and was surrounded by British troops, and refused to give up. And he actually pulled his sword. Legend says he pulls his sword and makes his last stand, and he was stabbed with bayonets 8 or 9 times, and beaten, and left for dead. And there was a tree called the Mercer Oak that was right where he was stabbed and left for dead. And his own troops, once they were fought back, laid him underneath that tree to rest while they could get some help to bring him to the field hospital, which is the Clark House. And that tree stood for many, many years, up until the 1990s, and I remember seeing it every time I drove by. And unfortunately, it fell in a storm and died, and they chopped it down. But what they did was they took an acorn from the tree and they planted it and grew a new tree from the original Mercer Oak, and that new tree stands where the old tree used to stand. So that tree was significant, and so Hugh Mercer was taken to the field hospital in the back of the field of the Clark House, which I'll show you, and died 8 or 9 days later from his injuries. So he was such a great man, they named Mercer County after him, and several different places are named after him, and just a great leader. So then I'll show you Albert Einstein's house, where he lived and worked for the Institute of Advanced Study there in Princeton. And I'll show you Nassau Hall, which is where the United States government was located. That basically was the Washington, D.C. of the day. It was the capital of the United States, and the entire U.S. government was in Nassau Hall. So I'll show you that. That's still there, and I've actually been inside it. It's actually really cool. And then I'll swing around to the governor's mansion, which is a big white mansion in Princeton. It's called Drumpthwacket, which is the stupidest name I've ever heard. And so we'll do all that today. I'm hoping to get it all done. Again, hopefully the weather holds out. So I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like Revolutionary War stuff, I'll try to fit as much information as I know. And I appreciate you taking the ride with me. Horsey. Oh, look at all of this sand in the road. Where Where does it come from? Ooh boy. That's one thing about bikes that's very dangerous, is they are extremely prone to sliding on slippery stuff like sand. It's not like a car where you just hit the gas and you could be in sand and you'll just take off. The back of your bike will slide and swish and, you know, go all over the place if you hit it too hard. So you got to be extra careful. I mean, yesterday I was riding, and this is one of the reasons I was mad that my camera wasn't working. By the way, it's still working. Hi there. Because I hit a patch of sand when I was making a turn, and the back of my bike slid out, and I had to do some pretty good balancing to keep it, you know, keep it straight. And I did it instinctually. I've never been in that situation before, so there's no way to really train for something like that, but kind of just do it instinctually. Instinctively is the word, not instinctually, or whatever I just said. You got to be really careful. So, especially when you're going around a bend in the road and your bike's leaned over and there's a patch of sand, you got to right that bike real quick, and then as soon as it's upright, hit the brakes. You never want to hit the brakes in a turn. But yeah, that was kind of crazy how much sand was there, considering we're a good 30 minutes from the beach right now. Up here is my pee spot. My pee spot! If I ever need to pee, this is where all the cool people go to pee. Right over here. On the left. You make a left there. And then you go into the woods. My pee spot. I don't need to do that right now. I was thinking about oh, they have old tombstones in there. Well, this is Allentown, New Jersey. If you ever wanted to buy a house from the 1700s, this is where you need to come. Because all these houses are super uber old. I don't know if I'd like to live in a house that old. This little town, you can see just how, like, old colonial style houses. And you could just picture this town when it was just a dirt road. And you had this building here, which was like the town center, like in the hotel, way back in the day. Really cool, old looking building. I don't know where it is now. But just these old houses. This was like the town with the horses clip clop clop down the road. The old blacksmith. There's the old church. There's no history towards the south in New Jersey, because it's just, there was nothing there to begin with. Look at this house. I mean, my God. It looks every bit as old as it is. This tree up here has some kind of Revolutionary War significance. They kept it right in the middle of the road, and there's a plaque here that says something. And I believe it's like George Washington rested underneath that tree or something like that. I don't know who the record keeper was, but to actually know that information, every tree that he rested under seems a little weird to me. But anyway, that's the mysterious tree on Quaker Bridge Road. I would like one day to follow the George Washington Victory Trail, which is around here somewhere, and it's the trail that all the troops followed from when they crossed the Delaware River to go all the way to Trenton, and it goes all the way from, all through this area, all the way to Trenton, and it's still there. You can still walk the same path that they all walked, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of labs around here, a lot of chemical, pharmaceutical labs. And this one up here on the right side got closed, I think, because of all the protests from people and all the flack they were getting for testing on animals. And this looks closed. I forget which company owned that, but I remember the story coming out how they were testing on all these animals and all the bad things that were going on back there. You can't see it. That man has long flowing locks of blonde hair. He looks kind of ridiculous as an older man. Straight ahead it says Princeton Battlefield, National Park, and the Clark House. The Clark House was where the wounded soldiers were taken. It was the hospital, field hospital. It's hotter than the devil's balls. And welcome to Princeton, settled 1683. Yes, everyone, we are still in New Jersey. I don't care what you heard about what a disgusting place this is, but that's not around here. The majority of the state is just like this. And here comes Princeton Battlefield. It's kind of weird that they were able to stick this street right through the middle of it, but man, imagine how old that tree stump is. I'm gonna park here in the shade. Alright guys, welcome to Princeton Battlefield. Here it is. One of the more significant battles during the Revolutionary War happened here. They say that the amount of musket balls and just artifacts that are still buried under the ground was actually quite significant. Those trees were still there, or were there during the time. You can see off in the background, and we'll walk over there, is the Clark House. That's where Hugh Mercer died. And then this tree is the tree I was talking about. It was called the Mercer Oak, named after Hugh Mercer, who was wounded at that spot. Got the authentic sound of garbage trucks going by. I wonder if you actually came out here with like a metal detector, if you could find anything. So around this area that I'm standing right now is where Hugh Mercer pretty much made his last stand, and to be in the same spot where somebody was being attacked during a battle, it's kind of eerie but awesome. This tree was grown from the acorn of the tree that was originally here. So it was this spot that he was put to rest while they could get some help to bring him over to the hospital. You guys can pause it if you want to read it all. Mercer was bayoneted and laid beneath this tree, refusing to leave the battle until victory was secured. Battle of Princeton, January 3rd, 1777. If you look off in the distance there, and we'll walk over there too, is the monument basically right leading into where the tomb is for all the soldiers that were buried there that fell on this ground. And you could just see they probably had fences up, just musket fire. Can you imagine fighting back then? One-shot guns. You gotta reload before the other guy can come and kill you. The sad part is that this is not protected land. Most of it is, but some of it isn't. So they're actually thinking of developing on some of this land, which I think is atrocious. They can't find anywhere else to build than a place with some significance. This tree's pretty neat because you know it was here. This was the site of Mulder's Battery. This is where a couple of the big guns were positioned. And I don't know if you can really read it, but I want to pause it and read it. I don't know what the best way is for you to read it, but... At the height of the January 3rd, 1777 Battle of Princeton, British forces under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Charles Mawhood attacked aggressively, forcing the American brigades to fall back. The Americans rallied around a small artillery battery led by Captain Joseph Mulder. Mulder's battery consisted of 2 guns handled by some 20 boys recruited from the Philadelphia's dock area, supported by the Delaware Militia Company of Captain Thomas Rodney. With great skill and bravery, Captain Mulder directed intense and accurate fire from the American guns, which prevented the British forces from advancing across the field. This defense was a major factor in the American victory, being crucial in buying the time for Washington to arrive on the field and organize a counterattack. Artist James Peale, a soldier with the American forces at Princeton, chose in 1784 to illustrate this critical moment of the engagement in his painting of the Battle of Princeton. Peale's landscape, painted on this hill, focuses on Mulder's battery and the left wing of the American forces in their attack on the British 17th and 55th Regiments. In the background are William Clark House and barns now gone. The Mercer Oak would be just to the left of the barn in the center of the painting. So you can kind of get an idea of what it would look like. I don't know what the best way for me to stand is. But anyway, their artillery guns were positioned here and would fire straight out, basically be exploding straight ahead. But that's the thing, like standing right here where all those soldiers stood, looking out at approaching forces, it's pretty amazing. We can scan this. Again, guys, pause it if you want to read it. This is information about the Thomas Clark House. Again, pause it. What's cool about this picture is you could tell it was taken from this spot, right where we're at right now, looking up. And this tree, this huge tree, was once that little tiny tree right there that you see in the picture, with the house in the background. That is really, really a great picture. And it's kind of cool that they put this right here where this picture was taken. So the person taking that picture back in 1860 was standing right here. Now look at it, it's a monster. And the Thomas Clark House. This is now, they have a little museum inside, which has artifacts that were from the battle and things that were discovered and found later. The history inside this house. It's got central air. Wow, so cool. Open Wednesday to Saturday. Must have been the outhouse. For the colonnading gravesite. Basically, these columns here used to be on the front of Mercer Manor back in 1835. And pause it. Basically, they took these columns and they moved them right back there to mark the entrance to the gravesite of all the fallen soldiers. It's amazing to me that back in the early 1900s how they were able to move this, which is guaranteed to be extremely heavy marble or whatever it is. Wouldn't want to be the horse that had to do that. And I got them here in one piece. I love how kids don't have any kind of appreciation for history and what this stands for, because it's important that H loves M and Gonzalez family was here. And then this is the gravesite This big stone seal indicates where the soldiers were buried. Here lie buried the American and British officers and soldiers who fell in the Battle of Princeton, January 3rd, 1777. Here freedom stood by slaughtered friend and foe, and ere the wrath paled where that sunset died, looked through the ages, then with eyes aglow laid them to wait that future side by side. Well guys, that's Princeton Battlefield. Interesting place. Eerie feeling. A lot of history here. And George Washington was on this field on his way to Princeton. So, let's go see Einstein's house. Alright, it's good to be back on the bike again. That was a long walk. Woo-wee! By Princeton Battlefield. I am sweating. It's like 90 degrees and humid as hell. So, I'm sure many of you, all of you, have heard of Albert Einstein. Well, not many people know that he lived a lot of his life here in Princeton. He lived here, he worked here, he died here. Did a lot of work with the Institute of Advanced Study, which is behind us, up the road. And Princeton University, and I'm sure a bunch of other places here. This is where all the smart people in New Jersey are. And I'm going to kind of do a drive-by of the house, and I'll pause it so you can take a look at it. But I guess nobody lives there now. Well, certainly somebody that doesn't have anything to do with the family or anything like that. And here it is, right on the right-hand side, this white and black house, right there. And then here's one of the buildings at Princeton. All the buildings at Princeton look really cool and really old, and although that's a more recent building, that's the Princeton Theological Seminary, whatever that means. This is the main street through Princeton. There's Princeton University on the right-hand side, Alexander Hall, and then you have I forget what the actual theater is called. Pretty buildings. Coming up here on the right, which I'm going to pause it again, is Nassau Hall. That's where that had a lot of significance too for the Revolutionary War. It's right there. I've been inside. It's actually quite interesting. Very old inside. I mean, almost original. Like the floors are like sideways. They're so old and slanted, and the original planks are on the floor. Alright, one last stop, and that's the governor's mansion. Let's go see that thing. Wow, this place has changed. House of Cupcakes. Alright, so now we're going to go up to the governor's mansion. It's called Drumthwacket. Ridiculous name. And I used to work for a company that used to have to drop things off over there, and not entirely hard to get into. I would just ring the little buzzer and they would buzz me in, the gate would open, I'd go to the back, and of course then you're greeted by like 16 state police, but they were usually just watching TV. So, I mean, I don't know if I was ever there when the governor was there, but, and here it is. Drumthwacket. Well guys, that's going to conclude today's motovlog adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed taking a ride with me through Princeton Battlefield. I did enjoy coming out and seeing it again. It's been a while. And like I was saying before, I have a deep-rooted interest in this time period, and it's always nice to be in the place that you read about in the history books. So, I hope you guys are doing well. I appreciate all of you guys for watching these videos. And please like, comment, subscribe. If there's any places that you know of that you'd like me to visit, please leave them in the comments below. And I hope you guys are doing well. Take care. Bye-bye.